if you're not young enough to remember when it came out, Halo changed shooters permanently. Like, there was nothing like Halo before it. At the time, there were people that were playing like fucking CSGO. It wasn't even CSGO then, it was just Counter-Strike. Fucking before Global Offensive, I think it was just literally Counter-Strike. But those people were like weirdo land animals that fucking they lived in the bushes outside your local high school and just fucking permanently hung out there. They're very strange cats. And if you're like, oh dude, don't be judgmental of the fucking of those guys, you're out of your mind. But fuck, what was I saying? Can I make a new and then transfer? Let me see if I can do this. But it was a sea change of a game. Like the way that these games worked before that came out, like it's kind of fucking hard to explain. But basically, like you couldn't control shit. Like the biggest of all of them, of all of these shooters, was like GoldenEye, which was unfathomably mid. Right, by modern standards, it's almost unplayable. Of course, we played it all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was incessant. The fucking GoldenEye, you know, every Christmas and shit. But like, it was also a game that you could just cheese the entire time. It was extremely unserious, and you know, you had stuff like Big Head mode and all that kind of crap. That was like really just lame. And then you would have your cousin who's like, I only play with big heads. I only do man with the golden gun. And like the multiplayer was sort of like really tacked on and insanely exploitable. I remember one of the things to do was to be on the one that's the basic multiplayer level. I think it's Silo, but I can't really remember. But it's the one with the bathroom, the notorious bathroom from the GoldenEye movie, which if you're young enough that I'm explaining any of this to you, you don't know what that is either, probably, unless you're a fucking weirdo film nut like I am at your age or whatever. Shit, what was I saying? But you would go in there, and the way that you would cheese it is you would just sit like inside the toilet stall with your gun between like the gaps in the toilets. And this was just ancient 90s kid knowledge that everyone knew how to do it. And basically the whole game wasn't about actually fighting the people in there. It was about trying to get into that spot first so that everybody else would not be able to play the game anymore, and you would just functionally stun lock a win. And like every shooter was like that back in the day. Like almost bar none, except for the weird online ones. And yeah, fucking Jason said, I went from GoldenEye to Halo. Mind-blowing experience. It was insane. Halo CE's graphics were way ahead of their time. Only like Metal Gear Solid 2 has graphics which hold up as well for the time it came out. And they were both basically out at the same time. I remember being at my friend's house, literally playing Halo and fucking MGS2. Fucking Sons of the Patriots, is that which one that is? And just incessantly banging out on those two games. And like, switching to Halo was fucking insane. There was really just, there's almost no way to explain it. It came out right around Christmas, I think, because I remember it being cold, but you know, games do. It might have been in that, but like that's when I finally got to play it, was like at Christmas time. And I started playing that game and I went, holy shit, am I like one of the best video game players of all time? Because suddenly it went from being like, you couldn't hit shots back in the day. Like, it was like, if you could fucking hit somebody in the face, actually, in GoldenEye, you were like 6 tiers above every fucking body else that you knew. And then, like, Halo came out, and all of a sudden, everyone could fucking aim because the controls made sense. And you could, like, walk and strafe at the same time. To put in perspective, GoldenEye had fucking tank controls, and you couldn't look up and down. And, like, if you did, it would be like a glance. Like, you would actually have to force yourself to look back up, and it would go whomp, whomp. And then to aim, actually, it was auto aim, and you would have to just kind of tank control your guy in that direction. And then to aim, point aim with your little reticle, you had to hold and this is on a fucking N64 controller, which was made by somebody some eldritch horror made it. This thing, you had to fucking hold the R button, which is all the way on the top right corner of it, and then use your thumb and do like this weird fucking motion while trying to like control your guy, and then you could kind of wiggle it, and this thing wouldn't stick. It would also try to fight its way back to the middle based on a movement algorithm dreamed up by I don't know, some sort of fucking space Hitler. It was the absolute worst thing anyone's ever seen ever. It sucked. But at the time, it was the only fun thing. And then you go to Halo, and modern aiming on a controller happened, and it was a sea change. People just stopped playing all of those other games. It was done. There was the Xbox, which was like a corny, weird, bizarre console in an era of corny, weird, bizarre consoles, right? It was gigantic. The Xbox was the size of a fucking literal tombstone. If you can ever go to whatever fucking museums hold these things, you have to go look at an Xbox at some point. An original Xbox. It is literally the size of most people's, or slightly smaller than most people's computer towers, and did not have that much fucking processing power. It could barely run Morrowind back in the day. But these fucking things, on God, they had the giantest fucking controllers you've ever seen. They were massive. That was the old joke back in the day, that you would have to be a literal bear to play with the Xbox controller. But then and it had weird games like Morrowind, which was like, everyone's like, this is one of the best games ever, and then you see it and it's like, you're fucking with me, because this is the stupidest shit I've ever seen in my fucking life. Why is this guy just going Of course, I play Morrowind 4 years or 5 years after it comes out, well, on a laptop in Iraq, and it was the only thing that got me through a series of combat deployments. But my God, Halo changed everything. You could aim, you could jump in a way that made sense, even though like I've gone back and played it, and the jumping now is like super garbage. It's the worst shit ever, right? But at the time, man, that jumping technique that you had was like wild, that you could just pop up in the air and kind of float and control yourself, and you were jumping over things and shooting in midair. Jumping and looking down and shooting at people as you like popped over them. You could get a lot of like additional damage for headshots. You could zoom in. And you were just like super hyper fucking mobile the entire time. And then you could play that with like 1 million people on LANs that actually worked, because you could plug 4 controllers into the Xbox and connect 2 Xboxes or 4 Xboxes together on a LAN and have like a literal fucking 8-on-8 party night, which was like, Halo came out and it changed the game. And one of the most notable things about Halo is that Halo kind of took a step back from what was going on in the N64 era, which was, we can't make shooting feel good, so we're going to give you the dumbest fucking gimmick guns ever. One-hit gun that you throw and turns into a turret, gun that fucking shoots like a weird thing, and it's got rules about it and stuff. And, you know, people have reintroduced stuff like that since. But Halo was extremely fucking grounded. You have basically, and we're going to start getting into the tier list here, 3 to 4-ish types of weapons. It really breaks down to Covenant and human weapons basically break down into bullets and bombs. Covenant weapons are all basically the same thing, some sort of like plasma juice energy shit, but some of it explodes and some of it doesn't, right? Splash damage, point damage, basics. And the guns did not do a lot of weird, janky, bizarre, over-the-top shit, but all of the guns did have basically some sort of secondary fire or secondary ability to them, and almost all of them have like a real powerful sense of personality, which I think is one of my favorite things about them. So I'm going to be kicking off this tier list in just a few seconds. And before that, I'm going to bring up the Wikipedia just so I can double check any statistics and the real names. Halo weapons. I think I have this saved, but Halo CE weapons. All right, on the strategy wiki. Okay, I'm going to go down and just put things in in terms of what we've got. And so the first thing we're going to have, and I'm going to set these on my workboard now that I've got this set up. But when I set something over here, that doesn't mean that's the tier it's going to go into. I'm going to set it in this spot, and then I'll move it over. So don't try to clip me out of context and say I like a thing I don't like, you animals. But in any case. So on the first thing, what we have is the M6D Personal Defense Weapon System. Pistol, which I did not by any stretch of the imagination know that was the name of this item. So what we have is the pistol. Everyone probably remembers this. This is like one of the most go-to weapons in the game. Why is this so low res? Because this is original images, apparently from a wiki that is from like ancient as shit. And I really appreciate it being kind of low res, but it still works, and I'm going to keep it. So this is the basic pistol. And in the game, this is, I would say, one of, if not, I would say it is one of the best guns in the game, at least as far as Halo Combat Evolved went back in the day. It, like, just smacked, and it was a highly rewarding weapon. Even though it only had 12 rounds, maximum ammo you could have is 120 rounds, and a 2-time zoom with a 1.8 second reload time. This thing fucking cracked. If you shot body shots, it was no good. It was like, whatever, you know. So like a lot of people would dump this early in the game and get a bigger weapon. But once you were used to the game, you were like, I need a pistol and a fucking shotgun. And pistol and shotguns became one of the go-to things, period. Somebody told me on the last stream that this thing is apparently shoots a 12.7 by 40 millimeter fucking pistol round. I don't see that in this little thing. That's probably adapted, upgraded information after the fact. I think this wiki that I'm looking at is like from the literal mid 2000s. And I'm going to do this in terms of not necessarily game. In the game, I would say this is absolutely an S tier weapon. And I would say if in real life, I would also make this an S tier weapon. There's nothing on Earth that is remotely close to this pistol, period. I know this is an early S tier, but like it's kind of unfair. This weapon zooms in on a 2x variable sight. So it has a variable sight that fits on top of a fucking pistol and is instantly interchangeable. So you have a small, compact handgun. It's a sidearm carry. It shoots one of the biggest goddamn rounds possible. The equivalent is to a 5.45 Kasul, basically, which is, I use that weapon in one of my stories. So a guy shoots a fucking dragon out of the sky with it, quite literally. The dragon's not in the sky anymore; it had landed, but he shoots a dragon in the fucking head with it, and that's like what you kill something with. Crazy story. It's pretty good. You should check it out. It's called Last Chance Gas. Oh, sorry. Apologies, Ty, Westside fan, but I've got to get up at 4 a.m. I got to crash. Oh, no problem. Good night, Jason. Catch the VOD. Thanks for popping out, brother. That was a terrible one, but I'll get you back some other time. Thank you. Halo is awesome because it starts as an alien sci-fi shooter, and then halfway through, boom, it's a horror game. That's like, it's insane. I started playing shooters late. Borderlands 2 is the first one I remember really enjoying. That's wild. Tyler, it says the ammo caliber on the ammo packets in-game, if I remember correctly. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's highly specific. Highly specific. But yeah, in real life, this weapon would be one of the most sought-after pistols on Earth. Because not only does it hit that hard, it keeps basically, and this is because of the way that, you know, these games are designed and stuff, but it keeps a, like, sub 1 foot minute of angle at like 400 plus yards. You can use this, and it's most often used in the multiplayer back in the day as a counter sniper weapon, because it shoots so far, it can suck you back out of the zoom in and stun you. And it is a one-shot kill on the vast majority of enemies if you hit them in the head. And usually, even then, it's a 2 to 3 shot kill tops. Unfathomably cool weapon. It would be the heart of a lot of militaries if if it was in the real world. Unironically, one of the coolest things of all time. The next thing we have going down is kind of oddly the opposite. It is the second most common, or I would argue even the most common primary weapon, the MA-5B Individual Combat Weapon System assault rifle. Your other first weapon, a rapid-firing rifle that holds 60 bullets, is not terribly accurate and isn't too powerful ever. I mean, you pretty much sum it up there. The clip size on this thing is 600 rounds. The max ammo you get is 60 rounds. The max ammo is 600 rounds. There is no zoom on this. And the reload time is right around 2.7 seconds. So it's got almost twice the reload time. And like I said, it can't zoom and it can barely hit anything. Even if you are trying to just tap fire the rifle, you can barely hit anybody with it. Go ahead and get this over here. This is the rifle in question. Sorry, I didn't bring it up. This obviously, I mean, I just love this low poly model. I would say in real life, as in the game, this actually would be in the E class. Aside from to a slight degree, and I think the only reason it's even in the game is for anti-flood countermeasures. That's basically the only time it's good in the game that I recall is when you're shooting at piles upon piles of the miniature flood infectee parasites, not even the bigger ones. Then it can be kind of useful, although just being a good shot with the pistol, using your grenades effectively, even just punching and dodging is ultimately better because then you can have better weapons to fight the actual infected who are going to be coming after you. In real life, I would say that this is probably going to be one of the least in-demand weapons on the planet. Aside from the fact that it is extremely odd looking, I'm going to expand it again. It's got a light on it. The flashlight's okay. You have a helmet-mounted flashlight, but this is an inborn flashlight or an in-model. I can't remember what the hell. Built-in flashlight. Jesus Christ. We don't have any sights, so this is going to be relying on, I guess, some sort of computer technology or a link interface that goes connects into your helmet or something. But even if that fails, you have no real sense of how this works outside. You do have the ammo counter up there, which is nice. You have this sort of comfy looking handle, and it's a bullpup design. I'm going to guess that this is the magazine right here, which is why you never see it being reloaded. But it is highly inaccurate and does not hit very hard. With the just sheer amount of ammo that it goes through and its inability to hit targets, I couldn't see almost any modern military wanting to field this thing, especially because it's also extremely unmodular. Which I know it's from the game, but I would say this is definitely, you would need additional things on this to make it more useful, and it really just isn't. It has its place in the game, but in real life, I would definitely say that is an E-tier weapon. I wouldn't see almost anybody wanting to use the goddamn thing. Next, we have the M90 Close Assault Weapon System shotgun. I love that they call it a Close Assault Weapon System. That's so fucking corny and beautiful and great, and I love it. Sorry. To be fair, accuracy is hard to gauge since you're a literal super soldier with powered assault armor. Fair, but if you're locking it in place, just the accuracy off of the pistol barrel itself is insane compared to even modern weapons. I'm not saying that the average person would actually be able to employ that, but if you try to shoot, even locked into a vise like an M9, a standard service pistol, whatever, even the Casull, from a vise, you're going to get a considerably more varied impact over range just because of the way that bullets are shaped and stuff. I'm going to assume that this has a bullet has some sort of novel shape or uses some sort of space magic to stay straight. Who knows? Also, just to note, the shotgun is 8 gauge, which is fucking awesome. There are very few 8 gauge shotguns in real life. One of them is it's technically a shotgun. I think it's 8 gauge, and it's a Russian weapon that shoots 4 rounds total out of its magazine at a time. The recoil on the Magnum would be rough. Absolutely. The assault rifle is pretty good up close. The strat is to mag dump on someone and then punch them. Yeah. You usually switch it with a more powerful weapon, but it's definitely not useless. It's not useless, but honestly, if I had to compare it with most of the other guns, given how much time on target you have to do versus before you hit them, I prefer at the time to use basically everything else. But this shotgun was just amazing in the games. It is extremely limited in its range. Obviously, it has a lot of fall off, but it was, and I keep forgetting to bring it up here because I'm looking at it on the screen, but then I'm not bringing it up. So this is the shotgun. Obviously, beautiful low res model. It is a short range shotgun. It does have a limited amount of ammunition, and like old school shotguns, it tends to have an exaggerated blast pattern, but it does hit like a fucking truck. I carried a shotgun on my first deployment because I am tall and the backup sling I had to carry it on would not drag the ground. I think that's the only reason I was issued it, and that no one else wanted to carry the goddamn thing. In modern combat situations, shotguns are next to useless in almost every other application that a gun would be useful for, except for door breaching, which is why I carried mine. And I still almost never used it. I think we shot a few hinges off, and we shot a lock off with it one time, and that was pretty much the entirety of the use that it got. They are not good for counter fighting with basic any modern weapon. They are not good in a fight against. They're just not particularly useful. And so I will put this, because it is very effective at what it does, and it is kind of nice. I'm going to put this in the B tier. I'm going to put it in the C tier. It's definitely in the game like an A. I would say a strong A, almost an S, sometimes an S, depending on the situation. I never liked to go without one. Shotgun sniper was like basically how I got through like legendary mode because of, ammo conservation and shit. So that is what it is. But I would say it's a pretty solid weapon just in a modern battlefield capacity, which is what we're trying to argue for. I don't think it has a whole lot of use, but it is a solid shotgun. It always works. It loads easily. It seems pretty easy to control. The other guys have it. They manage to get some fire off of it. And you don't need it to be anywhere near as modular as you need an assault rifle to be. So I would say pretty easily C tier. Next, we have the... one of everybody's favorite gun that you kill your own friends with about 10 times more often than anything else. The M19 SSM rocket launcher. This one's great for taking down Covenant Wraiths, Hunters, or large groups of enemies. It also zooms. It is commonly known as the jackhammer. Its melee attack is slow, and the accuracy is excellent once you consider the time it takes the rocket to reach its target. Clip size, 2 rounds. Max ammo, 8 rounds. Zoom 2 times. Reload time, right around 3 seconds. This weapon is phenomenal and made out of space magic. It's so weird that you would think that something like this would not be particularly high up the list, but I would say this actually might be an S-class weapon. I would say in a modern battlefield sense, this is an S-class weapon. I would say even in Halo, it is such a rare and useful weapon that it is basically indispensable. In a modern sense, so modern rocket launchers, or if they're a rocket launcher, if they're a missile launcher, there's technicalities based on basically how the fuel is expended and where the fuel is attached to the missile itself, the thing that's being thrown. Rockets, the rocket stays on powers it almost the entire time. A missile launcher is just like you burn the fuel inside of it and then it flies out, kind of like a big bang. So we have the AT4, the small, and the Law are the most common ones, at least back when I was used in the United States Marine Corps. The Law is the something weapon. I can't remember. Laws are really, really, really tiny. A Law is about the same size as one barrel on this thing, and they tend to be primarily for anti-personnel use. They're about this big. They kind of pop open like that, and then they're shoulder fired, and they're one pump and dump. You throw the whole thing away. The AT4 is considerably larger. It is a miserable bitch and a piece of shit, and I fucking hate it. I never shot one in combat, nor do I think the vast majority of people on Earth fucking have, because the AT4 is just a product of its time. It's a disposable one-shot anti-tank weapon. It's an anti-tank for single shot launcher. It's just a big green tube, and it doesn't even really have like a lot of stuff on it. You use the sling that it comes on to actually like hold it tight, and then aim with the plastic sights that it has, and then you click, 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 boom, and it fires. The last one you have is the small, which would be the closest to this rocket launcher, which is the shoulder-mounted assault weapon, I believe. If I remember correctly. I would get in trouble for that, maybe. If one of my friends... Well, actually, they don't even care anymore. I'm the only one that remembers like half of the shit that we had to learn. Because everybody else considers it's extremely lame. And I guess I probably would too if I didn't already like all that stuff before I went in. But the small is carried by the 0351 infantrymen, the anti-tank missilemen. Well, no, they're just... I can't remember what the fuck they're called now. Because that MOS got blended with the actual anti-tank missilemen. That's the 52s. 51s are combat demolitions, basically, but they use the smalls, too. The small is reloadable. You put a big thing on the back of it. That's the missile. Clink, clink. Like that. Aim it. And the boom that it makes is the largest of anything I've ever heard fired off of a human body. It's profoundly loud, and it will actually shake trees that are like 80, 90 feet away. The drawback in the modern military to things like that is having enough propellant to move a thing that's big enough to damage a tank. And so in the case of our munitions, you have a few different ways to deal with that. You have high explosive dual purpose, anti-tank rounds, things that hit armor and do specific stuff. The good thing about the small is the small can be loaded with a bunch of different rounds. The bad thing is because it's shoulder mounted and it's to shoot the heaviest round it can, it's heavy as fuck. The ammo's unfathomably heavy. It doesn't do that much damage in the grand scheme of anti-tank weapons because it is fielded on the ground. It doesn't hit that fucking hard, right? And it is highly fucking inaccurate. It's not highly inaccurate, but it's unfathomably difficult to fucking shoot it. To the point that smalls come with a specialized gun attached to them that shoots a modified 7.62 by something or other fucking round with like a 9mm tracer round attached to its completely specialized ammo that mimics, with a low powder pattern, it mimics the flight path of the missile. So that you can actually try to plink, literally plinking rounds. You can try to plink the side of whatever you're shooting at before you fire the full round. So you usually fire plink, plink, and once you've plinked it twice, then you can actually try to fire it. And then when you do it again, you have to try again. The Halo Combat Evolved rocket launcher solves all of these problems with space magic, and by being one of the most perfect rocket launchers of all time. It shoots not one, but two rockets, which pachink, pachink. And like, they just replace each other. They spin around and you can fire the second one. Having that amount of firepower for a second follow-up shot puts it above quite literally every other fucking rocket launcher on Earth. Given especially the fact that it has a flat trajectory and the missile almost always goes where you hit it. It has a 2x zoom on it. The the reticle is always accurate to point fire, so you can just literally put it on the shoulder of any fucking person out there, and then they are now anti-tank capable. That is insane. These things hit hard as shit. They are accurate. They are easy to use. Every single standard infantryman seems able and willing to steal them from you to put them into service. And so, yeah, I would say that this would be an S-class weapon, almost enough to even bounce the pistols out of S-class. But it is in a league of its own. Quite literally one of the most insanely overpowered rockets of all time, as far as like if it was real. Let's see. That's where the master key was made. Shotgun for door breaching, but without the need to hold a big ass shotgun. Cool thing about the SPN Spanker, yeah, is you can reload the launcher system without tossing the whole thing. Yeah. The having a reloadable system is a benefit. It is and it isn't. It depends on literally what you're doing. But generally, it's good to be able to fucking shoot a second round out of something, particularly when you have anti-tank teams and stuff, which is this going to be. And considering how small these tubes are and the ammunition replenishments, you could probably be fielding a pretty significant amount of firepower with your average on-the-ground team, which would be indispensable. Indispensable, I said. Sorry, I keep burping, everybody. God bless you. All right, so continuing. Next, we have the sniper rifle system. 99 CS2 anti-materiel sniper rifle. A very powerful weapon for skilled sharpshooters. Quite nice for dealing with elites, but only over a distance. Not suited whatsoever for close range combat. Tell that to all the twitchy little fucking 12-year-olds I used to play with in the game as a 12-year-old. Don't be weird. It also has a night vision scope, which you can enable by turning on your flashlight while zoomed. It is virtually useless against flood since the bullet only passes through their body. Its melee attack is average, and it is the most precise gun in terms of shot accuracy in the game. Clip size, 4 rounds. Max ammo, 40 rounds on Xbox, 24 on PC. Zoom, 10 times. Reload time, right around 25 seconds. Now, this is one of the skill cannon guns of Halo, the sniper rifle. It is based very closely on the Shaytak intervention, which I'll just bring up a picture of real quick. If I remember, I'm pretty sure it's the Shaytak. Let's see. Shaytak intervention, which everybody knows because it gets put out. No, it's not necessarily Shaytak. It's something else instead. Shaytak's and other stuff. M200 intervention. God damn, but that is a beautiful weapon. There's just something about the Shaytak that's just like, I don't know what it is, and I've seen people shoot it. But I mean, just look at this. Hold on. We're just gonna sit here and just look at that fucking thing. I want it so bad. I don't even want to shoot it. I just want to touch it. Like, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me. But like this, look at it. Look at the tasteful tan coloration on the box mag. This little hand grip on the bottom that you might never use, or you might use. Who knows? The one of my favorite parts is just this double piston extendable scope or stock that clips so nicely in over the top of your bolt pool, your release lever. Plump, 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 plump. The big rifling chunks on the side of this bolt to hide the bolt guide to help guide it. These bipods. Oof. Just the floatingness of it. It just seems so purpose built. I've heard it's not that fucking great. You know what I'm saying? As far as rifles go, it's good. I mean, it's not a bad rifle, but I have heard that it's not as great as everyone says. But just fucking look at it. Just fucking look at it, man. It doesn't deserve to be that fucking beautiful. I digress. Anti-material rifles are all based roughly around the Sasser 50 caliber sniper rifle, which I will bring in right here. So this is like the original, I believe. Well, there's been other open image in YouTube. There's been other anti-material rifles before. This is the one of the most go-tos. This is the Sasser. This is why I told you. I know I said that was the fucking Sasser barrel, and that's that fucking blast compensator on the front of it. It might be a muzzle brake, but I think this is actually a blast compensator when it works like this. I can't remember. I could be wrong, or it could be interchangeable. But this is a very interesting weapon. I'm going to talk about it for a few seconds before we get back. The reason the Sasser looks so fucking weird and like chunky and space, like a space thing, is because it is still, I'm sorry, I mean to be moving this over here. This is a prototype weapon that just went straight to production. A guy made this in his free time in his garage. And then like this, there's a whole forgotten weapons on it. I suggest you listen to Ian McCullough, down in range TV. If you want to know more, but this big ass box mag right here clips in, and it's just literally sheet metal and then a purpose-built barrel and firing system, and then everything else is just kind of clamped together. I mean, you can tell that this looks like fucking erector set shit on this bipod, because it is, but something about that just makes it look fucking awesome. The The M107 is the Sasser an M107? And yeah, the M107 Sasser is kind of the you can kind of see it right here in the spirit of this. This is a mix of things. I think there's an actual analog for this in the real world, mostly because of this little ring piece up here that it's connected to. But anti-material rifles are literally what they say. It's an anti-material rifle. It's literally to shoot at material. In the case of the Sasser, it was designed for shooting at engine blocks, shooting at airplanes, not necessarily like airplanes in the sky. You know, when you say that, people are like, what the fuck would you shoot at an airplane with a gun for? You'll never hit it. You sneak towards the fucking airfield and then you shoot the plane before it takes off from a distance. That's the point. It has enough penetrative power to do significant damage to the internals, penetrative and impact power to do significant damage or enough damage to the internals of technical vehicles, even aerial technical vehicles, to make them non-operational or even possibly to harm the operators inside. That's fundamentally the purpose of it. They are notoriously difficult to employ effectively because they are heavy. Their ammunition is heavy. Their bullets are heavy, so they want to fall to the ground very quickly, so they need way more power to fly, you know, and you need to do a whole lot more mathematics. They are not they are not very flat trajectory weapons, and so they also have a limited range overall. They have a very long range, but they have a limited effective range where you can say, hey, I'm going to put a fucking dot here, and then this is definitely going to hit what's in that dot, as compared to the more you know, match grade fucking ammunition, 701.65 hand poured whatever the fuck, you know, I don't even know. It's like talking about an Italian supermodel. Like, I don't fucking know her name personally, right? You're describing the shape of her butt. I digress. But anyway, Doc says the in-game rifle shoots a 14.5 by 114 millimeter AP discarding sabot round. Which is bullshit, too, because the goddamn thing doesn't penetrate fucking anything. What a discarding sabot AP round, it was probably a slap round. Sabot light armor penetrator is probably what they saw, which are real rounds. They are made out of tungsten steel. It looks like a little dart. I'll see if I can bring one of these up so you guys know what this round. It doesn't look like a normal bullet. Slap round. I think you're actually not able to shoot slap rounds. I could be 100% wrong, but I think you're not able to shoot slap rounds out of a Sasser because it doesn't have the barrel capacity for it. The slap rounds are like destructive to what they get shot out of. Because if they go weird, the tungsten will rip out the interior of your barrel. So you can shoot them through an M250 cal all you want, and you won't ruin the gun because the M250 cal's barrel is replaceable. You can take it the fuck off. As a matter of fact, you have to take it off and put it on all the time, and there's techniques to that. But you can, if you fucking blow the barrel out on that thing, it's bad, but it's also doable, you know, as opposed to the Sasser. Once you blow the barrel on that, you're fucking done. You don't. It's a completely ruined. It's fucking scrap. This was designed by the Marine Corps. Do you guys have a picture of a slap round? Why the fuck would you not have a picture of a slap round? There we go. 50 caliber slap versus body armor. There you go. Open image in new tab. So we had these. This is a slap round. It is, as you can see, it's a fucking gnarly ass, weird looking fucking guy. These plastic pieces are what you call a sabot or a sabot. If you want to say it like some of the instructors I had, you can't quite see. There's another picture, but it doesn't really matter. These are like a polyethylene, plasticky type shit. I don't know what the fuck they're actually made out of, but this is actually like 3 little pieces, this red thing. And it goes and holds the inside of the barrel because this piece has to A, be all weird shaped like this so that it works. And B, if it touches the inside of the chrome barrel, the metal that this is made out of is so fucking hard, it will scratch the inside of your barrel out. If you're shooting normal rounds, copper jacketed rounds, the copper is not as hard as the chrome lining of the barrel or whatever. And so the chrome lining will dig into the copper won't dig into the chrome lining. There's still going to be wear, but the wear is going to be more defeating towards the bullet. In this case, it's going to be considerably more defeating towards the inside of the barrel, which you don't want. You also don't want this thing to skip and dig into the barrel and get stuck, especially if you're trying to shoot a second round after it. So this sabot holds it in and protects it, and then once it goes out into the air, the sabot goes ploop and flies off like that, which I've heard makes the round go faster when it pops off like that. I don't know if that's actually the case, because you hear a lot of things about 50 caliber rounds that aren't true. It just goes with the fucking territory of being in the military. But this thing has a fucking serious amount of hit. These are red, which I think means it's opposite day with these. So I think these are standard rounds. These are or these might actually be tracers if they're red. I can't remember. There's red ones. There's like red, blue, and green, and they're red, blue, and green up here, and that tells you if they're tracer, if they have, I think these actually are tracers, because I think it might be these like slightly caramel colored ones I'm seeing. I don't know. But yeah, there's a bunch of different colored ones. Yeah, it is. It's red and then this yellowish. I think these red ones are I think they're tracer. It doesn't really matter. And then the coppery colored ones are the standard bullets. So these will just glow on the back when you fire them. They also have slap whatever the fuck. They have slap incendiary, I think. So like it's a slap round, but it's also got a big chunk of magnesium in it that will fucking burn after it hits stuff. So it'll smoke out chunks of the armor and set the armor on fire a little bit. It's wild. But in any case, these are fucking extremely high power rounds. Extremely high power rounds, but they are very heavy. They are very, 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 very expensive to shoot. To the point where you're not supposed to even be allowed to like fuck with them because just one of those rounds costs like fucking like $8 or $9 or something like that. Probably even more. It probably costs like $20, which is a lot for a fucking bullet, you know. Oh, Doc's out of here. I gotta go for the time being. Hey, I hope you enjoy when you come back. But all that said, we have here this sniper rifle, which is good in the game. It's a good point weapon. It zooms into 10 times, which was impressive for Halo, because, zooms on rifles were not that big just because the levels were not that big. So it was really just a way to show off the size of the levels. 10 times variable scope is nothing in the real world. There's all sorts of things. It might not even be great for what you're trying to shoot at. It depends on the shooter. It depends on the target. In the case of this weapon, in the real world, this thing is going to be next to useless most of the time. Snipers are cool in video games, so you see sniping in video games all the time. But sniping in real life is pretty fucking rare. It's a highly specialized thing, and if you think about it logistically, when you have one or two snipers that can shoot really, really far, you don't need that many other snipers. So you just train your few snipers up really, 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 really well. And generally, having talked to a ton of scout snipers and shit, because we're always like, hey, let's see your guns, they vastly prefer the non-match grade, non-frou-frou, non-anti-material weapons, because they're fucking easier to carry. They're fun to shoot. They're like, if I could shoot anything, I want to shoot the biggest, coolest, insanest fucking gun ever, because I'm a red-blooded American Marine and I want to hear bang and see target explode. That's my life. But when it comes down to, I've got to carry this thing on my back in addition to a service weapon for fucking 6 miles crawling, I'm going to go and stick with like the M40 or, some sort of small variant, mid-variant rifle in general. In the game, this thing is really good at basically headshots, and it is terrible as an anti-material rifle and bounces off of basically, if I remember correctly, everything. In the original game, the only the enemy weapons or the enemy vehicles, I think, are the only ones that can even be damaged, and you just get damaged inside your vehicle, but like the ghost can kind of get blown up. The next game, they can all get fucking shredded, but in the first game, this doesn't have a whole lot of anti-personnel or anti-armor effect. So it's got a really, really, really small magazine at 4 rounds. I think even the Barrett has like 8 or 9. Hold on, let me double check that. I could be completely wrong on that. Why does everybody never say? So, oh, by the way, the Light 50, due to its chambering of the 50 BMG 12.7 by 99 millimeter NATO cartridge. So yeah, that The cartridge in Halo is even bigger than a 50 cal by a sight. Diameter length. Feed system 5 or 10 round detachable box magazine, which is I've seen it loaded and unloaded. It's fairly easy to load. You have to have a little bit of fucking strength, but I think the Master Chief wouldn't have a problem with that at all. But it is heavy. It cannot really be shoulder fired. That's a thing for super soldiers and the Marines in that game, who are just absolute goofs and who are all supposed to be modified too. So I would say ultimately, trying to round this out, I would say on a modern battlefield, especially compared to weapons that we already have, which have, fucking infrared amplification, GPS connectivity, all sorts of stuff, I would put this down in D tier. I think the sniper rifle from Halo is not particularly good in a modern context. I think it's not particularly good outside of skill cannoning in the real game too, like if you like consider it, but I don't know, that's just me. I gotta continue on here. We gotta power through these guys. Continuing on, we have something I never used, but I can still probably talk about, the M7057 defoliant projector, which is a Vietnam joke, which would have been slightly kind of still funny in the early 2000s. Defoliant is what they called burning every fucking tree you've ever seen down in the Vietnam War. So this apparently has a clip size of 100 units, max ammo of 600, zoom none, and a reload time of 2.7 seconds. This is a flamethrower that was only in the PC version of the game, but we can kind of jump straight to it. On the modern battlefield, flamethrowers, and I'll show you guys a picture of this, obviously. Flamethrowers are next to useless, and always kind of have been. They are a massive liability. This is the flamethrower that they're talking about. I think this comes back in other games to some degree, but I can't really remember it. Flamethrowers on a modern battlefield are next to useless, but flamethrowers, in general throughout history, are of dubious value, and the second you can find something else that provides the same sort of functionality, if you're trying to get large area damage done, a bomb goes way better than a flamethrower. In general, the concept of fire on the battlefield is something that Sun Tzu talked about at the dawn of time, which is, hey, I know fire, I'm going to paraphrase, hey, I know fire seems cool and like you love the way it looks and it's scary, but don't forget, once you start a fire, if you can't put it out and it comes towards you, then the fire is fucking you up now as well. And that's very much the case for all instances of flamethrower use in history. America had a perverse fascination with flamethrowers starting in just after World War I, basically, and proceeding into Vietnam. For a little while, we had flamethrower tanks, whole flamethrower units, and it was a commonality on the battlefields of World War II's Pacific theater, not the European theater where you had army people and you were fighting generally against whites. When you start fighting against Asian people, I guess it's okay to start using flamethrowers and flamethrower tanks. When you are fighting against white people, shotguns is as sketchy as you get in a general sense, and gas, but I digress. We used a lot of flamethrowers and stuff, and I've listened to a lot of battlefield reports, and generally flamethrowers were about as dangerous to the enemy as they were to the people there. Especially once everyone finds out that you have a flamethrower, it is literally just like in video games, where if you see a flamethrower person, you shoot the flamethrower tank. And the flamethrower will never go as far as a standard bullet goes. One sniper of moderate talent can take out your flamethrower unit the literal second they see you. And that's pretty much it. It is an archaic idea given modern play, so to say, but ultimately fire is against a lot of the Geneva Convention rules for a very good reason. And it is not effective on a battlefield for as a it's effective, but it's not a reliable thing that you can add to battlefields in order to like boost up your positions. It's generally fucking dangerous. So I'm going to pop it down here in E because there are no lower tiers. Unironically, I feel like that makes me feel bad. So I'm going to go ahead and readjust all three of these with a little bit of perspective, because nothing deserves to be as low as a flamethrower, and we'll move everything up here. I'm not saying it's not cool. Flamethrowers are cool. In this game, it was probably exceptionally useful for the flood, you know. And when you're fighting alien super monsters, sure, but you generally aren't doing that in real life. And I've seen enough fires just start in just generally because munitions are going off. Like they just start fires fucking on their own. And so having an additional thing to cause fire intentionally it's only going to fucking make things worse. And, you know, it's extremely dangerous for the person that's employing it. You have to get unfathomably fucking close to burn the people that you're going to be attacking. And in general, if you use it in anything but the most specific circumstance, it's a fucking war crime. So flamethrowers, no. Although there is plenty of use for flamethrowers as defoliant as defoliant things. You know, if you need to burn down some like cover or something like that, or like clear out, you know, do controlled burns and shit. You just get a small propane flamethrower. That's fine. But yeah, trash weapon, absolutely E-class. From the defoliant projector, we go down to the Type 25 direct energy pistol, the plasma pistol. The most common Covenant weapon, very handy in a pinch and excellent for taking out shielded foes. Hold the fire button will charge it and deliver a very powerful homing shot which will take out elites and jackal shields in one hit. It can overheat. It's the fastest weapon to switch to. Melee speed is excellent and accuracy is average. It also, and I don't know if it's saying this, has is it in the later games? I feel like they have a small amount of tracking on them, but I could be crazy. So the plasma pistol is one of the first Covenant weapons I guess we're going to be talking to. I think we actually covered basically all of the human weapons. And where are we? Where are we, little pistol? Do I not have them? Oh, they're there. Okay, here we go. So these are the plasma pistols. The plasma pistol is a single-handed weapon. In the original Halo, it is part of one of the most basic attack strategies if you are going to be using an assault rifle. Or if you're really, really good, you use this and a pistol. You can switch from this to a pistol and back and forth and blah, 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 and just hit. These will kill shields in a single hit, and then you pop off the pistol shot, one hit, knocked out. In real life, I don't know what these would be used for. They're wild. I feel like this would be, because you see in the game and stuff that these do pretty significant damage to material. Actually, probably more than the actual anti-material rifle. The plasma moves slow, but it hits stuff and boils into it and cooks it. You can see guys get hit with it in the other games, and it cooks into flesh and causes a lot of damage, but doesn't seem to start fires. So this would be an instantaneous improvement on the defoliant projector for certain things that it does. And it's just an extremely novel weapon. Now, obviously, you would have to have access to the ammunition, but just assuming all of those things were taken care of, I would say that this is just a neat, particularly bizarre weapon. I don't even know what you would use it for other than probably maybe room clearing, because it does shoot very fast. You can get a lot of hits off of this thing while in a close quarter situation, and really it's very, very maneuverable, and the charge might be highly effective. I would say that this would be, if you brought it into modern day, with the exception that it glows and it would really fuck up your infrared, but I guess if you're using even heat because it's so hot, it would fuck that up too. But if you were defending a small area and you had to really just wreck somebody, I think this would be a particularly odd and effective weapon, but it would have a lot of significant drawbacks as it is a pistol. I think the bolts bleed off. No, they go forever, don't they? But That also might be a bit of a drawback. So it's just so weird, um, and and so bizarre. I would have to put it in a B. It has a very specific use in Halo, but once you remove heat shields and shit, you have a slow moving ball of hot that will cook people a little bit, but it's still, like I said, slow moving. It's very maneuverable, but it's also extremely bright, so you might not really want to be using it in room clearing and stuff. But if you were, if you were in an emergency situation, like if you were on a boat or something, and you didn't want to worry about ricochets, I could see it being extremely useful. Also, maybe in aircraft and stuff like that. If you're like providing security for the president, so to say, and you don't want to rely on your goggles and shit, you could shoot that inside of an airplane, and you wouldn't have to worry about it because it sticks to stuff. It would boil whatever it hits, but you don't have to worry about penetrating like the soft skin of the airplane and potentially damaging the engine or something. I don't know, or accidentally shooting through into the cockpit. It doesn't have a lot of penetration. I could see those being issued to like police and shit, and honestly, it being a significant improvement on giving them any sort of firepower. But yeah, I would say ultimately not particularly great, not particularly bad. A very B tier weapon. Kind of in the game too. You really do need other things to make it effective. Continuing on, we have the Type 25 Direct Energy Rifle, the Plasma Rifle. Find it on Elites. It's not quite as good as a Plasma Pistol, in that it cannot be charged, and the pistol semi-auto fire is slightly faster. However, the Plasma Pistol requires much attention and fast trigger fingers by the player to achieve its high firing rate. The rifle can simply fire full auto. It's useful in a lot of situations where you need to concentrate on moving around. Be warned that this weapon, like all handheld plasma weapons, can overheat. Doesn't really tell you how much ammo it has, it just says the 100%. In the game, the plasma rifle is extraordinarily mid. It might be one of the most mid things ever. He was there earlier. He runs in and out sometimes. It is one of the most mid fucking weapons, I think, period. If not the most mid weapon. However, that does not mean... Oh, shit, I'm sorry. Did I not stick this where it was supposed to be? It seems like it resized. I clicked off of it. That's what it was. So here we have these plasma rifles, which are not much larger, by the way, than the plasma pistols. I think in a modern battlefield, or, in just modern combat situations, I think this would actually have a profound amount of applicability compared to the pistol and most of the other things on this list, save these S-tier weapons. What you have is basically a submachine gun that really has a lot of assist in the fact that it doesn't shoot bullets, it shoots gigantic balls of energy that are hot and stick to stuff. They don't do instantaneously fatal damage. I believe you can shoot people in the head once or twice before it actually kills them. Although that's probably like fatal. It's not terminating, it doesn't actually knock you out levels of damage. But you could have these and use them in small scale quarters, as a SWAT person or whatever with a highlight infiltration. And you could shoot the shit out of the inside of a building with these and not have to worry about it overpenning through windows, through doors, and hitting other stuff because it would hit whatever wall, burn on it, and then burn itself out. Also, if you're talking about small, light armor, this is a major problem for the Marines in the games. I know they talk about that their typical armor can be defeated by these after just a few shots because of how hot they are, and then even if it hits your armor, it can cook through, which would make these extremely effective for interpersonal engagements in a small confines. I think these would be a real benefit, actually, for small scale, close quarters combat, particularly when it comes to stuff like hostage rescue and shit. If you can like hit them, if you accidentally fire past and you hit one of the hostages, they're gonna get cooked a little bit. But if you don't hit them too many times, they're not gonna fucking die. Yeah, I really appreciate these. It also, if you have somebody that likes to go crazy, they overheat. and it'll smoke your hand because you have no fire discipline. So I would say these are going to be one of my weird A tier picks. I think in a modern sense, in a real world battlefield, these would actually be pretty fucking sick. They're also instantaneously battlefield effective for untalented shooters. You don't need to know a lot about them. They don't reload, from what I understand or remember. They have to be recharged at some point. So you give this to somebody, they don't need to know anything about it other than pull the trigger. And because the projectile is so fast, so plentiful, it's shooting at such a high rate and such a high amount, and it glows, you basically get the tracer effect born in to the weapon. So you can just put this in the hands of fucking any dipshit, and they can and get it on target, which is probably what the Halo people were thinking when they put that in the game. But yeah, I would say that's actually a surprisingly good and highly effective weapon for a modern battlefield. I think that if that existed, you would see this replace the AK-47 overnight, especially if it was cheap and you could figure out how to solve the charging issue. It would be insane. I'm not surprised that the invasive imperialist force that is the Covenant uses that as one of its basic assault rifles. All right, we're getting to a fuck king shit. This is insanity. The Type 33 guided munitions launcher, the Needler. There's not a tier high enough to put this gun in because it's it's insane. This gun is a perversion and it's beautiful and I love it. The last common Covenant weapon and the only one that needs reloading. This weapon shoots slow homing needles that explode after a short while of being stuck in something. 7 or more needles penetrate the enemy in a short time, they'll explode and, most of the time, kill the enemy. The melee attack is the slowest in the game. However, on Legendary mode, this weapon becomes a necessity against the Fiendish elites, as it will home in and kill them if enough rounds are fired. Clip size 20 rounds, max ammo 80 rounds, reload 1.5 seconds, very fast reload. Zoom, none. Nothing else interesting about that. The Needler is a lot of people's favorite weapon. It's so bizarre that it is both a low skill weapon for newbies who can't shoot and also a high skill weapon for people that are trying to do the most difficult versions of playing this game. Needler Gang, brought to you by me, Certified Poster. Shout out Shep, he called it. This weapon would change the scope of combat in an interpersonal way, especially considering like we would immediately find ways to attach this to like small size drones and shit. Anybody can use it. It very much like the assault rifle that we just talked about, the small laser machine gun. Basically, this thing does everything that does, but it also has homing missiles. It also has penetration. It doesn't talk about it in this. I can't remember if it's in Halo, but I know it's in the other games. 1 out of every 3 rounds from this gun will also ricochet if fired into a wall. So you can, in hard skinned areas, bounce the fucking needle off of walls into enemy targets. I don't feel like I even need to explain how effective that would be. And then once they get full of enough hits, they explode. Which I think, unironically, if this weapon was introduced to a modern battlefield, it would within a day be it would be like when the fucking Pope back in the day found out about crossbows and was like, you cannot keep shooting Christians with crossbows. This is some shit you only shoot fucking Saracens with. This is absolutely fucking insane. Are you out of your mind? You shoot this thing? I saw it demonstrated. This is madness. It would be the subject of a papal bull within 12 hours of its introduction to a battlefield. It's insane. It's absolute insanity. It shoots it's a cold weapon. It doesn't seem like it causes fires or anything like that. From what I understand, the explosion is localized to the inside of somebody. It tracks. It's easy to use, to operate, to shoot. You can hold one in each hand in all of the subsequent games, which means that anybody could do it. It would be one of the first guns to ever be fired akimbo in a modern battlefield, and everyone wasn't like, who is this guy? Report him to his immediate commanding officer. It would be insane. It would change hostage negotiation, particularly if it could be tracked, like hostage rescue and stuff, interdiction. It would be one of the most dangerous weapons for assassinations and stuff because of you could have a guy in a crowd who just 6 or 7 guys like that firing that at 7 or 8 guys. You know, you've wiped out a fucking small squad of people. It would be beyond the pale. So without even going further into it, I feel like I've said enough. The Needler, the most dangerous gun possibly ever thought of, in such a small way. It doesn't do that extreme of a thing. It just solves every problem you didn't know existed with guns on accident. It's like a child's idea of a gun, in that way that like children figure out all of the problems because they refuse, or all of the answers because they refuse to accept the problems. The Needler is that. Perfect. Just perfect. So below that we have the fuel rod gun, which I believe is in Halo 1. I know it's in the other ones. I just don't remember picking it up that much. I think it's just, it's only in the PC game. Okay. But it is in the like second and third. I'll still talk about it. A battery-powered mortar launcher that is great for taking out players in vehicles or shooting over obstacles. This weapon is only available in the PC Macintosh version of the game, and it only appears in multiplayer. Be warned, it can overheat. Fires a large ball of heated fuel, which creates a rather strong explosion, which is effective against vehicles. Fired in arc, which must be accounted for by the player. Special operative grunts in campaign carry one that explodes shortly after the death of the grunt carrying it. Keep your distance, it blows up. No reload, no zoom, max ammo, 100% battery charge. From the backs of it, it looks like it shoots like 7 or 8 rounds. So this is the fuel rod gun. We're gonna go ahead and bring this up. Where did I got lost. Fuel rod gun. Please select the fuel rod gun. So right here we have the fuel rod gun. And this is just a grenade launcher. It's a fancy grenade launcher. It seems like it's extremely heavy. I'm going to go ahead and immediately drop this right down into E-class weapons without even hesitation. Any weapon that explodes when somebody is injured is a bad weapon. You should not have things that are highly volatile. The battlefields are already volatile enough. The buildings are fucking half destroyed and crumbling underneath you. You might be injured yourself. Your equipment gets frayed, it gets worn, it gets tattered. Having something that will explode on being dropped is not great. You know, even the most powerful explosives that we have in the military are painstakingly created so that they remain as inert as possible until the worst possible situation. I saw in one of the scariest moments of my life, my dipshit team leader on my first deployment. We were staying in a hotel. It wasn't a real hotel. It was just a 5-ish story building. I can't remember exactly how big it was anymore. But we were on the 4th story of it, and he emptied his 203 like a dumb fuck, not in where it was supposed to be, or maybe he was even just messing with it. Dropped a 203 round, which is a 40 millimeter fired grenade. It fell, hit the ground in front of him, rolled off underneath the railing, and then fell 4 stories onto its face. Plink, right into a crowd of other Marines. It did not explode. It had a gigantic dent on it. Those weapons only explode if they are fired and then spin like a minimum of 6 or 7 times. It's actually, there's fins inside of it, right inside the back of the head area. And when through the force of firing and being spun by the rifling inside the barrel, those fins separate, right? And it has to go at least 23 meters or so, I think, or 32, something like that, before those are out of the way enough for the pin to penetrate the primer and set it off. So it was inert, but that's insane. In this case, if he would have dropped one of these things, it could have exploded. So in that case, without regard to any battlefield capability, there's a lot of other things that do this. The 203 that I just described can be an anti-tank weapon that's shoulder mounted. We also have this beautiful, beautiful Spanker rocket launcher, which does everything this does. If I could have both of these in the same world, I will choose this every time. This is a secondary consideration. Probably in the game, I used it in the second or third game because it did more explosive, but if it gets dropped and explodes, no bueno. If it doesn't drop and get explode, I would still say C or a D. A slow range indirect fire weapon, a short range indirect fire weapon is not a particularly useful thing. That's why we have hand grenades and other sorts of explosives. Generally, if you have an indirect fire weapon, you want it really fucking far away from you. Any explosive that goes off by like default, like next to you, if it works, is like something you want to use less if possible, including grenades, which is probably going to bring us into grenades, I think. Let's see. We are going into. Come on, bring it up. The M9 high explosive. That's actually fucking hilarious. I never realized this. M9 high explosive dual purpose grenade, fragmentation grenade. One of the two types. What is the other purpose of it? I think they just saw HEDP and they wanted to put it in there. So you can only hold 4 of these. Kill 5, casualty 15. Timer 2 seconds. God damn. Okay, so this is the standard fragmentation grenade in Halo. It is notoriously one of the worst. This is the only thing, by the way, they didn't have a picture of in that original wiki. I had to go out for it. It's notoriously one of the worst grenades in the game. They're very hyper common. They just go out, they explode. You can hit stuff with them. They generally don't do that much damage. The kill radius is not 5 and 15 on these things. It's definitely like 1 and 3. They're kind of trash. They're a trash grenade. They're not very reliable, and a 2-second fuse is no good. It makes sense for games that are small like this, but the real life M39, M32, M39 fragmentation grenade, I can't remember exactly, has a fuse of 8 to 12 seconds because you want it to go real fucking far away from you. And you can also leave for a bit before it goes off. Like, what if somebody grabs it and throws it back? Like, if you have the balls to grab a fucking grenade, you don't know how long it's been in the air, and try to throw it back at somebody, you deserve the attempt. That's all I gotta say. Because the fuse is 8 to like 12 seconds. And sometimes it goes down to 6, and sometimes it goes down to 5. Always assume a grenade has a fuse of like 3 seconds, but it could be more. It could be less. It might never even go off. Grenades are a thing that are cool in video games. In real life, they are of dubious value. They're very dangerous. They are often misemployed or employed for weird reasons. They can be jumped on. They can be repurposed. One of the best things to use grenades for is grenade-based traps that you set and then walk the fuck away from, because you don't want to be anywhere near these hand bombs when they go off, or near people that are throwing them, because they are first and foremost heavy as shit. It's like 3 or 4 times heavier than a fucking baseball. You got to throw the fuck out of it. And a lot of people have a lot of they misunderstand or underestimate how fucking strong they actually are, and they short throw these things. They misthrow them. I mean, every single person you have ever seen flub a fucking standard pitch to another person, imagine them with a grenade. Do you want that near you? So I'm gonna go ahead and put this grenade. Actually, this grenade's dog shit. Still not as bad as these things, but close. I'm gonna put it in D. No. I mean, you could still use it because you throw it away. So I'm gonna say it's still a D tier weapon, but like, goddamn, real piece of shit. Real piece of shit. Especially even in the game, they suck. King's only ours is plasma grenades, as we know, because we're gonna get to this next. Type 1 anti-personnel plasma or sticky grenade. The Covenant's answer to frags, slightly more powerful than frags, but they don't bounce and will stick to stuff, enemies or friends. Or if you stick an enemy, it will kill them no matter what, unless it's a hunter in campaign. They will not stick to an inanimate object, and the timer only starts on the impact of the first thing. Sticky grenades are real in real life. They are an actual thing. They're not very often used for the same reason that these would not be often used, because you don't want a bomb to potentially stick to you or a friend. They're a blast to use. They're one of my favorite weapons and things to use in Halo because I love the skill shot aspect of trying to stick somebody with a fucking grenade. Oh, hold on. I'll answer you guys' questions in just a second. My bad. But in the case of this thing in a modern warfare sense, I would say it would have actually a lot of utility, not as an actual grenade, anti-personnel grenade, which is it's marketed as, but as an anti-technical, anti-tank grenade, which is what you use it for the most in the games anyway. In the case of that, something that you can turn on, throw and stick to a moving technical that will go away from you. Obviously, there's a lot of risk reward there. That would be a highly, highly sought after thing because the main purpose of even sticky grenades from back in the day was to try to stick limpet mines, limpet grenades, sticky grenades to the sides of tanks and shit, so that it would get close enough to the tank to do more damage to it. You really want to try to get them into the treads and shit, so you can blow off treads, stick them into the engines, the exhaust, viewports, whatever, so that you can mix you don't have to worry about the time and time it perfectly because it'll hit and bounce off because the thing's made out of metal. It's the fragmentation surface on the outside. It'll hit and bounce off. But you want it to stick there so it goes boom right where you want it to go boom. The drawback with that is finding something that is strong enough to stick to it that's not very expensive and also won't stick to you. Because if you throw like a magnetic thing and then you didn't realize that there was a magnet issue around you, right? It could come back and stick to you and blow up. Same with the sticky grenade. It could be you throw it and then it sticks to your glove or something. The actual sticky grenades are made with like fucking super tar shit. It's the same sort of glue you see in industrial glue presses. Guys, people that have been around industrial glue know what I mean. It's one of those type of things that really tacky, almost like resin substance. You pull the outside of these things off, and then that substance is exposed. Pull your tab, and then you throw it. It's usually on a stick. Still very dangerous, not particularly great. In the case of these, what causes the sticking effect is actually the plasma, similar to these weapons, burning into the material. And kind of sticking in, very similar to like white phosphorus or something. You could probably replicate that if white phosphorus worked the way that people think it did in real life to some degree, but probably not the way that this works. You'd have to like cover it in fucking like slow det thermite and still make sure it lands on top of something so it would burn in. But with these, the way that they stick with that kind of plasma before exploding, I would say that this would be one of the most sought after, cheap, anti-technical explosives on Earth. It's still kind of dangerous, and you wouldn't see it being used against anything except for technicals. So, more than likely only by guerrilla forces. So it wouldn't be a universal use situation, but I could see these being extremely sought after. So definitely an A-class weapon, ultimately. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of time out of this. And with that, we run out of our standard weapons, but I did want to get into the vehicles before the end of it. There we go. Actually, right there. So in addition to the basic weapons, I also have the vehicles that you can ride and shoot on. It's just like kind of a bonus, but I'm going to put it in there anyway because I kind of wanted to score everything that you could get in and shoot from. So the first thing we have is the Scorpion. Slow-moving, all-terrain tank. It has one turret and shoots basically like infinite ammo. It's extremely slow-moving. People can ride on the side of it. It allows for one operator and apparently automatically does everything on the interior on its own. I'm going to go ahead and stick this. Slow-moving, all-terrain tank. It has 3 weapons. Turret, fires an explosive round, second gun, machine gun, and the treads. So this is like a single person tank. And in the later games, it's pretty easy to tear up, and it's basically mostly completely automated. Generally, I don't like tanks, but I think this would be one of my few exceptions because it's so fucking weird. Just having a tank that one single person can get in and it's automated for its firing, it really is just about getting it to a specific point area for combat. I don't think it would have a high level of ability in a lot of different places, but I think as a B tier, it would be perfectly fine. I'm going to kind of just jog through these. Next, we have the A10. No, not the A10 Warthog. It's the Warthog. The M12 Warthog. A10. The A10 Warthog is daddy. It's everybody's father. Your father, my father. It's every father that's ever existed. This is the Warthog. It doesn't look like a Warthog. Anyone that's in the know knows that this looks like a Puma. This... Fucking, I hope you guys get that joke. Otherwise, I am actually with like literal children in here. God damn. This is like one of my favorite things. It has this infinite ammo Gatling gun on the back, completely open, completely exposed to fire from every fucking direction. Throughout the entirety of this game, you probably just remember driving this thing off cliffs and just getting shot out of it by either other people in PvP or just whatever you were driving past because it has zero protection. In the modern era, as a technical, this thing would be valued by guerrilla forces everywhere because of the big gun on the back, but this already exists in a lot of different places. You see this with the anti-aircraft guns in the back of like Isuzu fucking flatbed pickups. It's wild, but I would say usefulness, this would probably also be a B. You would see these. They wouldn't be great. They wouldn't be as good even as a modern Humvee with fucking up armor and shit, but they would be nice. Next, we have the Wraith, which is... oh, whoops. You go right there. Next, we have the Wraith, which is one of my favorite things ever. It is also open. It's a technical, but it fucking hovers, and it can fall down great distances while still hovering. And has dual fucking laser guns on the front. If you could just armor the back and encase these people in something that's a little bit more protective, this would be one of the most sought after things ever. A lightweight, unfathomably fucking high speed technical. I think these things go like 35 miles an hour. Everyone remembers playing the game in multiplayer, just trying to jump over these and stick them with a sticky grenade so that you would stop dying over and over again. Yeah, one of the most perfect little technicals. And if it had cover, it would be great. This would be super in demand throughout the entirety of the world. I would put this absolutely cleanly into A class. It has more maneuverability, more singular damage, and you can get out of the way better than the Warthog. And if you just armored this up, it would be so much fucking better. Armored versions of this already exist, and they're nowhere near as good as this. From here, we're going to go to the Wraith tank. This is a traveling mortar tank. This has all of the problems with a normal tank and none of the benefits of the Scorpion. It got extremely light armor for a literal fucking tank. You can take it out with most of the explosive weapons in the game. Very slow firing, very short range mortar system on the top. No secondary weapons that I can recall, except for a back-mounted, rear top-mounted laser turret, which I believe only faces like forward in a 45-degree arc. This is a... if they had it modified to where it could actually shoot like an artillery cannon very, very far away, possibly useful, but I would actually put this all the way down in D. It's basically just a liability. And then finally, the Banshee. This is a hard one to choose. This is the weirdest possible vehicle. I think this would be one of the most popular things to have ever existed. Obviously, everybody loves them. It is a slow-moving hovercraft with inbuilt lasers, piloted by a single individual that is capable of extremely fast, right above the ground flight. There is nothing in the modern military that has quite the agility, point placement, and firepower as one of these. It has machine guns. It also has a small mortar system, basically equivalent to like about a third of the Scorpions. It's great for anti-tank. It eats up Wraiths. It eats up fucking... or that wasn't the Wraith tank, was it? Did I say that the wrong tank? This is the Ghost. This is the Ghost, sorry. The Wraiths are the tanks. The Ghosts are the little guys. It eats up Ghosts. It even eats up the Wraiths. It's unironically like the fucking harbinger of death on the battlefield. And just the ability to fly these around in small cities and like just check windows and shit in a way that gives you a lot more hover and like surveillance potential than a normal helicopter without any of the drawback of downdraft and having to worry about your rotors. I would say that this is an S tier weapon / vehicle as far as a small personal technical goes, which rounds out the list. I kind of blasted through there at the end, but I think this is solid. So just to reiterate, an S class. This is only for combat evolved, and this is only for relative to if it would be valuable on a modern battlefield, but I think it kind of equals out to how valuable they are in the real game too, with a few notable exceptions. In the S class, we have the pistols, the Spanker rocket launcher, the Needler, and the Banshee. In A class, the only A class entry we have is the laser assault rifle, the plasma rifle. In B class, we have the shotgun, the plasma pistol, the Scorpion tank, and the Warthog. Seriously, like literally does not. It looks like a Puma. In C class, we have the sniper rifle and the Wraith. In D class, the assault rifle, the human grenade. Oh, I think at some point up here, I covered up or lost track of. I'm sorry. The plasma grenade. The plasma grenade is definitely an A class weapon, and it should be there. I think I accidentally replaced it with something else. In A class, we have the rifles, and the plasma grenade. All the way down to D class, standard grenade, the Wraith tank, and the assault rifle. And then in E class, meme weapons, the flamethrower and the mortar system, which both are not even in Halo on the console. They were only on the PC version. There you go. That rounds it out.